Some of you may know I have presented at several community events over the past few years advocating for the adoption of UX design practices. Well, following best UX practice includes asking yourself a very important question before releasing any new feature. Will it improve the lives of my users? I used a closer to home variation on this question to select which of the many new FileMaker 2025 features to share with you here today. Will this improve my life as a FileMaker developer? My list begins with the newly released custom function management features, folders, and filtering. And to illustrate those features, I'm going to share two recent scenarios that I encountered myself. Too many cooks and finding Waldo. Now, I realize that not everyone works in systems quite as large as what I'm about to show you, but if you're a fan of custom functions like we are, you'll appreciate and perhaps even be able to relate to my recent Waldo experience. I added 5 new custom functions for an upgraded feature set. Naturally, adding them was no problem. But in order to then find them, I had to widen the name column and scroll seemingly forever. Now, out of respect for your time, I've sped up this playback of my search because it actually took a full 19 seconds to find my Waldo. I realize that this amount of time may not register as a major burden to you initially, but I can assure you that after needing to repeat this for the many iterations that followed for this module, not only was the cumulative time substantial and therefore costly, the dread that preceded each effort to surface my new functions from among their 380 plus peers was taking a toll, serious toll, on my quality of life. So it's now my pleasure to show you why with FileMaker 2025, I won't be wasting any more of that valuable, otherwise productive time searching endlessly like this anymore. So the first thing you're going to notice when I open my Manage Custom Functions dialog now is that folders have been added to organize my library. Yes, I know. Woo! Streamers and all. And I'm going to demonstrate how easy this is to maintain and extend. Now, because my new functions were added in support of payroll, I'm going to start by adding a new folder within my existing support payroll folder. And after naming my folder, I'm going to paste my functions from the dev stack. They're going to land at the end of my list, and that's fine. There we go, paste, there we go. I'll just drag them up to where I want them. I'm going to verify that they're in fact there. Then I'm going to move my folder to where I want it, close everything up. Yep, still there. There we go, everything's where I want it, and voila, no Waldos. But wait, there's more. Similar to other dialogues like Script Workspace and Layout Manager, Manage Custom Functions now includes a filter, allowing me to locate what I want even more quickly. That's everything. Okay, so by using FileMaker 2025 to organize your custom functions in combination with the new search filter, you too can say bye-bye to the time-consuming and costly Waldo experiences. Now, a bit of context for this next scenario. We at Harmonic are major fans of collaboration, and we have multiple developers on our team. So as a result, many cooks have worked in our code kitchen, which reminds me of an old English proverb you may have heard about too many cooks. Well, with FileMaker 2025, even a crowded kitchen like ours needn't spoil the broth. To minimize the inevitable chaos that can grow over time in your solutions, I recommend that you take advantage of this valuable new management feature to begin organizing your own custom functions within logical folder structures that make sense to you. Now, stepping away from the negativity here, the time-sucking, laborious, and frustrating nature of the effort too often spent locating just the right custom functions, I'm also going to share a common example of what can happen when developers can't find for what they're looking for quickly enough. In this example, a date formatting function, YYYYMMDD, which you might be able to figure out what that's doing, was added in 2017. Then another with identical functionality. I mean, character by character, identical functionality was added the following year. Now, because they're functional duplicates, when the same functionality was needed by another developer on our team in 2020 for another file, it should be no surprise that the duplicate was chosen instead of the original. But then later in 2024, same scenario, different file, but this time the original was chosen. Not only is the addition of unnecessary code a quick way to spoil an otherwise fabulous FileMaker soup, it's been my experience that custom functions become increasingly susceptible to this eventuality over time, regardless of how many cooks are in the kitchen. And to prove this point, I'm willing to admit, just between us, I was the author for both of those functions. Not only did I recreate an existing function that I forgot I'd already written, I am pleased to find that it was identical, but that aside, I remained blissfully unaware of the duplication until just recently, after I'd grouped them into the same date utilities folder. So it wasn't until 2025 that I was able to notice that there was a duplicate. But that's enough about me. Because the challenge of locating the best tool from our own ever-growing collection of functions had increased so substantially, I recently took on the challenge of corralling our most used custom functions into a central library. I started my project with a new file into which I imported all of the custom functions from several of our solution files. The resulting repository included a whopping 1,378 custom functions. Right. You can imagine. So the daunting nature of my next task to review and dedupe them all persuaded me to set the project aside and wait for FileMaker 2025 before picking it up again. I think the results are well worth the wait. Let's take a look. I started with some high-level folders so I could quickly separate the functions we use as shortcuts from those that I consider to be utilities, module supports, or even issues. I then created subfolders where doing so made sense. I created type-specific utility folders so we could, for example, peruse and choose from all of our JSON-related functions and locate an existing date-related function, before writing a new one. So you've probably noticed, if you've been watching the screen here, that I created a temporary new custom folder, and I'm transferring over some functions from an existing subfolder. And there's a reason I'm doing this. Okay, so I move them. That went as expected. Now I can select them, and I want you to see what happens when I move them back. And as you can see, the select, move, drag, drop works as expected. So they landed all together in the same group that they were in the folder I'd moved them to. But if you, like me, prefer the time savings of alphabetized lists, it may be a disappointment to learn that we no longer have sort options in custom functions. However, I consider that a very minor trade-off for the functionality that we've gained, because this is going to save considerable time and frustration. And before I move on, there is one additional somewhat subtle feature I'd also like to point out. You can now filter by folders as well. Simply choose from the pull-down list, and not only will you see the contents of your selection, its function count is also displayed. So I can quickly see that I have 35 shortcut functions or that I have 33 JSON utilities. I think that's pretty cool. So to recap, FileMaker 2025 allows us to create infinite folders for organizing and provides us with filters for rapidly locating our custom functions. But we no longer have a sort option.